So we're out today to do some intervals using our power meter. If you've just got a power meter and are interested in finding out how best to do intervals, watch the video to find out how you could do them. First thing you need to do really before any intervals is a good warm-up. So I like to do at least probably 20 minutes, gradually increasing the power, building to maybe even touching what I'm hoping to do on the interval. Just for a few minutes, then back to just steady riding, just to get myself really warmed up. As I've got older, I found I've had to do longer warm-ups before I start really feeling good. So if you're not sure what intervals to do, I quite often start out my sort of build time in training with 2-minute intervals. So that would be 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off, and maybe do 3 of those. And gradually, as you feel stronger, you could be doing 3 of those, have a break, maybe 10 minutes, and then try another 3. Key thing to doing intervals is not to go out too hard. It's really easy, especially in the first interval, to completely overcook it, and you find by the 3rd interval you're hanging and you can't even make the 2 minutes at the power you wanted to do. So don't go out too hard, take it steady. So I'm out today to do some intervals using my power meter. If you've just got a power meter and are interested in finding out how best to do intervals, watch the video to find out how you could do them. First thing you need to do really before any intervals is a good warm-up. So I like to do at least probably 20 minutes, gradually increasing the power, building to maybe even touching what I'm hoping to do on the interval. Just for a few minutes, then back to just steady riding, just to get myself really warmed up. As I've got older, I found I've had to do longer warm-ups before I start really feeling good. So if you're not sure what intervals to do, I quite often start out my sort of build time in training with 2-minute intervals. So that would be 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off, and maybe do 3 of those. And gradually, as you feel stronger, you could be doing 3 of those, have a break, maybe 10 minutes, and then try another 3. Key thing to doing intervals is not to go out too hard. It's really easy, especially in the first interval, to completely overcook it, and you find by the 3rd interval you're hanging and you can't even make the 2 minutes at the power you wanted to do. So don't go out too hard, take it steady. If you're not sure what power to start your interval on, I look at on Zwift you probably have a power profile chart, or I know on Trainer Road there's one, or on previous rides if I know what my 2-minute sort of best power is. You can see that on most power meters or power profiles. Certainly when you come back and upload a ride on Garmin or something like that, it should tell you what your best power time is. Or you could just, on another ride, try out a 2-minute effort, see what you can do for 2 minutes. So you could base your target power on something like that. Maybe it's 300 watts, maybe it's 250 watts. But if you've got something to aim for, that's going to help you obviously know where to set your power targets for your interval. So the first thing is really that. Make sure you've got a good idea before you start of what sort of power you're aiming to do. And don't forget, it's not just a flat out 2-minute thrash. We're doing VO2 max intervals, so it shouldn't be completely anaerobic. You're not sprinting, you're doing in a way a 2-minute time trial as hard as you can, but you want to be able to repeat it. And you want the third interval to be almost as good as the first two. So I like to pick a short, a sort of steady climb near me. It's quite shallow, probably only about 4 or 5%, but it's a nice steady climb. I know I can easily do 2 minutes uninterrupted, or even up to 4 or 5 minutes uninterrupted up it, which is ideal for doing intervals. So when I arrive at my climb, and this is it, I quite often do a little ride up it first, just to make sure there's nothing going to interrupt my intervals. No, temporary traffic lights or roadworks or something like that, just to make sure I've got a clear run, and I know I'll be able to hold on for 2 minutes. As you can see, it's a steady drag, not really hilly, but it's good to be able to keep that pressure on the pedals and keep that power down at the required target. So we're at the bottom of the hill, ready to start our intervals, and I've set my Wahoo bolt up, my head unit up, so I've just got all the information I need. I've got the lap time, and I can set that in a minute back to 0 miles an hour, but most importantly the wattage, and that's the total time I've been riding so far. So 20-minute warm up, and then ready to start the interval. So the key thing is, as I said before, to have that sort of idea in mind of what target you want to aim for. And then don't go out too fast, keep it steady. It's very easy to spike it in the beginning with a big effort right at the start. Try not to go too hard, settle into that, whatever the wattage is, 250, maybe something like that, 250, 300, 350, whatever your power is, and keep it nice and steady. 2 minutes, then we'll roll back down and do another one. So I've already spiked, so I'm trying to just drop back down again to keep it at the wattage I want. And once it's there, choose a gear to really help me push that power and stay on that. What also helps when you're doing intervals is having your power set on a 3-second average as opposed to just raw power, because it'll be flying all over the place, and keeping it on a 3-second average keeps it a little bit steadier. and then a roll back down. I know roughly where I've come to, so I can use that as a marker for next time to see if I can match that distance I've gone up the hill in 2 minutes. As I said, the key is to try to make each interval similar effort. Okay, so I've rolled back down, time for a second interval. What I do find is sometimes I don't roll back to the same spot. I roll not as far because I'm obviously taking it easy on the way back. So obviously having a hill that's longer than your 2 minutes is ideal, because you gradually find you're working your way up the hill anyway. So here we go, ready for number 2. Should have got clipped in before. Still in a big gear. So try to get that power back to your sort of wattage you're aiming for. It will go up and down depending on whether how lumpy the hill is or the road you're going over. Halfway. Up 2. And back down again. Just ready for lap 3. So now it's time for a 10-minute break. If you want to do another set of 3 of those. At the beginning of the year, 3 might be more than enough. Gradually though, should be able to up it to 4 or 6. So when you've done those 3 intervals and you've gone home, have a look at the lap times, lap powers, and see how well you did. Hopefully they're all, you know, pretty much in the same sort of ballpark figure, around 250 if you were doing 250 watts, 240, 250, maybe up to 260, but you know, averaging around that sort of power. Another good thing to do is take the average of those 3 efforts and use that next time as your target power, or maybe up it a little bit. So if your average power was 250, maybe next time you could aim for 260 and see how well you do with keeping that on track for 260 watts. And another good thing to do is, if you've never done them before and you really don't know what sort of power to do and you've just got your power meter, you could do those 3 efforts, like I've said, do them as, you know, hard as you can, but try to keep them, you know, similar. Don't go too fast on the first one, like we've said, but do 3 efforts all out sort of 2-minute efforts and take the average power of those, and again use that as your target for next time. If you haven't got a power meter, you can obviously still do intervals. You can't really use your heart rate for short intervals because your heart doesn't respond quickly enough to those sort of all-out efforts, but you could use RPE, your rate of perceived exertion, and sort of do it by effort. And obviously the more you do them, the more you get the feel for what it's like and whether you're in the right sort of area. I know quite a few people who do intervals without power meters at all, just based on how they're feeling. So give those a go. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you've got any comments about intervals or what works well for you, please put them in the comments below, and like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.